Hi everyone, my name is James and I would like to welcome you all at my YouTube channel PHP with James. So in this video, you are going to learn about variables in PHP. So let's get started. The key concepts that we will discuss in this video are basics about variables in PHP, predefined variables in PHP, scope of variables in PHP, variables in PHP. So first of all, if you are new here and you want to learn more about PHP, PHP tools and technologies, PHP tips and tricks, PHP basic and advanced concepts, PHP interview preparation, then consider subscribing this channel and also hit the bell icon so that you get the notification of my new videos. So let's get started. First of all, PHP variables. Variables are used for storing information, so they act as containers, like they contain the values. So how to create variables in PHP? Variables in PHP are represented by a dollar sign followed by the name of the variable. So look at the example. We have the PHP starting tag, then we have dollar name equals to my name is James. So here dollar name is a variable which basically contain a string, my name is James. Moving on, we have rules for creating variables in PHP. Like what are consideration we should keep focus and we should consider while creating the variables in PHP. So variables in PHP starts with the dollar sign followed by the name of the variable. Example $var as described in the previous slide. Secondly, variable name must start with a letter or the underscore character. Example $var or $var. Thirdly, variable name cannot start with a number. Example $4 is a digit var will generate a fatal error. And next is variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores. You can see that we can have A to Z, either that could be capital or small letters, 0 to 9 the digits and underscore. Example is dollar U is the capital, user name, user underscore name underscore 1. So this is a good example of how mixed character we can use in a variable. So variable names are case sensitive. Example $var and $var with the capital letters are two different variables. They will not consider a single variable, they will two different variables. So next is $this, and it's basically is a special and reserved variable that can't be assigned and will generate a fatal error if we use in our code because it's a reserved keyword in PHP. So look at the example. We have a PHP starting tag, then we have the dollar name, that is a variable, equals to PHP, and on the second line we have dollar name with the N capital in this variable name equals to James. So in the third line we echo the dollar name with dollar name capital. Basically we can use the strings this way, like we can in the double quote string we can use the variable names like this. So in this way we can echo, it will outputs like PHP with James. So on the fourth line we have $5 var equals to PHP basics. So you can see that it's clearly invalid because it starts with a number, so we cannot use the variables this way. On the last line we have $_5 var, the same variable but we just include underscore. So you can see that we can use this and this will be a valid because it starts with a underscore. So moving on, we have assign by value, like how many ways we can assign the values to the variables in PHP. So first of all is the assign by value. Like by default, variables are always assigned by values. That is to say, when you assign an expression to a variable, the entire value of the original expression is copied into the destination variable. Like one thing is expression and one thing is the variable. When we use the equal sign to assign a variable a value through some expression, Expression in PHP is anything that we can put in a in that can be a calculation, that can be a string, that can be a boolean, that can basically evaluated into a finally expression. So this means, for instance, that after assigning one variable's value to another, changing one of those variables will have no effect on the other. Like if we assign variable a value, then we assign the same value to the other variable. If we will change somehow the first variable, it will not affect the other variable. So we can see it clearly in the example. We have the starting PHP tag, then we have $var equals to James. Here we assign the value James to the $var. Next we have the $var2 equals to $var. Here you can see that we just copied $var to var2. So now on the third line is interesting, like on the $var2 we have my name is $var2. We basically alter the $var2 by using the and manipulating the variable. So here it will become like my name is James. So if we echo var2, it will print out my name is James. But if we echo $var, that will remain unchanged because we changed the var2 and this is assigned by value. So the other variable will not change. It has no effect on the other variable if we change the second variable. So moving on, assigned by reference. So in PHP, we can assign the variables by reference as well. PHP also offers another way to assign values to variables assigned by reference. So this means that the new variable simply references, in other words, becomes an alias for or points to the original variable. Changes to the new variable affect the original and vice versa. If two variables point to the same value, if we will change the first variable or the second variable, they both affect the changes. So to assign by reference, simply prepend an ampersand to the beginning of the variable which is being assigned the source variable. So for instance, the following code snippet outputs my name is James twice. So see, in the example, we have PHP starting tag, then we have $var equals to James, assign the value James to the $var, and on the second line we have $var2 equals to ampersand $var. So here we can see that reference $var via $var2, and basically we are using ampersand to reference these variables. On the third line, $var2 equals to my name is var2. We alter the var2, but when we echo var or var2, basically $var is altered too. So in the previous slide, assigned by value, it was not altered, but in this example, assigned by reference, the value is changed. So this is the if in some case we want to change the variable's value, then we can use the assigned by reference there. So moving on, here we have also the assigned by reference continue. Like one important thing to note is that only named variables may be assigned by reference. So the variables which have name, they can be assigned by reference. So look at the example, it will clear you. We have a starting PHP tags, then we have a $foo variable equals to 25. On the second line, we have $bar equals to ampersand $foo. This is a valid assignment. But on the third line, we have $bar equals to ampersand 24 multiplied by 7. So it's invalid because references an unnamed expression, that is fatal error, basically syntax error. So we cannot assign this way. We can assign only variables to variables by using the assign by reference. And also we have some example like function test, which will return 25. $bar equals to ampersand test, it will also invalid because notice only variables should be assigned by reference, not the functions. So this will make you clear about assigned by reference. So moving on, variable initialization. It is not necessary to initialize variables in PHP. However, it is a very good practice to initialize to some value. Uninitialized variables have a default value of their type, like that type the data, the variable will assign that default value depending on the context in which they are used. So look at the examples like booleans default to false, integers and floats defaults to 0, strings example used in echo are set as an empty string, and arrays become to an empty array. So relying on the default value of an uninitialized variable is problematic in the case of, like below we have the cases where it could be the problematic, like including one file into another which uses the same variable name. E-notice level error is issued in case of working with uninitialized variables. However, not in the case of appending elements to the uninitialized array. So uninitialized variables can create the e-notice level warning, but the exemption is in the case of uninitialized array. So is that basically set language construct can be used to detect if a variable has been already initialized. So this way we can check that if the variable is initialized yet or not. So moving on, we have predefined variables. So PHP provides a large number of predefined variables to any script which it runs. Many of these variables, however, cannot be fully documented as they are dependent upon which server is running, the version and setup of the server, and other factors. Some of these variables not be available when PHP is run on the command line. So these situations can vary, like the server to server, it can be vary, or the environment in which they are running. So next is PHP provides a large number of predefined variables to all scripts. The variables represents everything from external variable to built-in environment variables, last error messages to last retrieved headers. So here we have superglobals. What are superglobals? Superglobals are built-in variables that are always available in all scopes. So that's why they are superglobal, that they are available. No, doesn't matter where they are, we are accessing them, as they are global, so we can access them anywhere in our script. So you can see that $globals references all variables very available in global scope. So if we want to access the global variable, we can use this way, $global, and then we have the square brackets, and in that we can have the variable name. So server and execution environment information will be stored in this superglobal. $get http get variables, so this will hold the http get request. And then we have $post, it will contain http post variables. $files definitely contain the file upload variables, and $request http request variables, which basically include get and post as well. So session variables, here we can have $env environment variables, $cookie for http cookies, php underscore error message, the previous error message, and $http underscore raw underscore post underscore data for raw post data, and $http underscore response underscore header for http response headers, and $argc for the number of arguments passed to the script in the script we are using, and $argv for array of arguments passed to a script. So moving on, we have number 3, scope of variables. Like what are the scopes of variable available in PHP? We have local, global, and static. So the scope of variable is the context within which it is defined. For the most part, all PHP variables only have a single scope. This single scope spans including included and required files as well. For example, if we have a variable on the first line $a equals to 1, then we have include b.inc, that is include file. Here the $a variable will be available within the included b.inc script. However, within user defined function, a local function scope is introduced. So if we define outside the function, then we can access the inside other functions. But if we define the variable within the basis of the function, then we cannot access that. So that will be restricted to that function body. So any variable used inside a function is by default limited to the local function scope. For example, you can see that we have $a equal to 1, it has the global scope. And then we have function test. When we echo $a, references to the local scope variable, not to the global. We cannot access the outside global variable this way, because it will consider $a the variable available in the test but not the global. So we cannot access this way the global variables. So moving on, we have scope of variable, the global keyword. So here the global keyword will come in PHP. Global variables must be declared global inside a function if they are going to be used in that function. So using global keyword, we can see in the example we have $a equal to 1, $b equal to 2, and then we have a function sum. So here we are introducing the keyword global, and then by spacing one space we have $a comma $b, and now we can access the outside variable that have the global scope. And now when we will do some operation on it, like we do here the sum operation, $b equals to $a plus $b sum, we are calling the sum function, and then we echo $b. So this way we will sum the value of a and b, that will becomes like 3. So the above script will output 3 by declaring $a and $b global within the function. All references to either variable will refer to the global version. There is no limit to the number of global variables that can be manipulated by a function. So moving on, variable scope, second way to access variables from the global scope. So how we can access, instead of using the global keyword, we can use the using dollar globals instead of global. So here we have the same example again here, but with the using the dollar globals instead of using the global keyword. We have $a equal to 1, $b equal to 2, then we have function sum, dollar globals b equals to dollar global a plus dollar globals b, so sum and echo b. The dollar globals array is an associative array with the name of the global variable being the key and the contents of the variable being the value of the array element. So notice how dollar globals exist in any scope. This is because dollar globals is a super global, so we can access it anywhere. So moving on, we have scope of variable using static variables. So another important feature of variable scoping is the static variable. So a static variable exists only in local function scope, but it doesn't lose its value when program execution leaves this scope. Consider the following example. We have a function test, $a equals to 0, echo $a $a plus plus. This function is quite useless since every time it is called, it sets $a to 0 and prints 0. The $a plus plus, which increments the variable, serves no purpose since as soon as the function exits, the $a variable disappears. So this way the third line $a plus plus will not serve any purpose, because the $a variable always contains the 0 and echo 0. So what we can use to enhance this, so here we have using static variables, like to make a useful counting function which will not lose track of the current count, the $a variable is declared static. So here we have static $a equals to 0, echo $a plus plus. Now $a is initialized only in first call of function, and every time the test function is called, it will print the value of $a and increment it. So as soon as our skip loads in memory, and when at first call we will declare the $a equal to 0, but how many times we will call the function in next lines, it will show us the incremented value because that is a static variable. So this is the benefit of having a static variable. So moving on, we have scope of variable using static with recursion. So guys, here we have another example using recursion. If you don't know what is recursion, basically it's a programming concept. It is a function which basically calls itself, and it has some precautions also to write some recursive functions. So let's have a look. Static variables also provide one way to deal with recursive functions. A recursive function is one which calls itself. Care must be taken when writing a recursive function because it is possible to make it recurse indefinitely. You must make sure you have an adequate way of terminating the recursion. The following simple function recursively counts to 10 using the static variable $count to know when to stop. So we can look at this example. We have function task. Here we have a static $count equal to 0. Then we have $count plus plus. On the third line, we echo $count. We now have a condition. If $count less than 10, then we will again call the test. Remember that the static variable will not lose its value, so that's way we can implement this check and we can increment the value as well. So on the last line we have $count decrement. So if we call this function at once, it will output 1 2 3 to 10, and then it will exit itself. So this is the benefit of static variable in recursion. So moving on, scope of variable using static variables. So static variables may be declared as seen in the example above. From PHP 5.6, you can assign values to these variables, which are the result of expressions, but you can't use any function here, what will cause a parse error. So look at the example that will clear you. Function foo, we have the static $int equals to 0. So basically int for int, I am pronouncing this. It's a correct statement. But on the second line, we have static $int equals to 1 plus 2, correct as of PHP 5.6 as well. But on the third line, we are using static $int equals to sqrt, which is basically the function in PHP to taking the square root of some value. So where we are passing 1 to 1, so it's wrong as it is a function. So on fourth line we have $int plus plus echo $int. So this will output fatal error. Constant expression contains invalid operations. So these are constant expressions, but we can't use a function there. So note, static declarations are resolved in compile time. So next is variables. Sometimes it is convenient to be able to have variable names. That is a variable name which can be set and used dynamically. A normal variable is set with a statement such as, when we define a normal variable, we can have $a equals to hello, but a variable takes the value of a variable and reads that as the name of a variable. In the above example, hello can be used as the name of variable by using $sign. Example, $sign, and then we have $a equals to world. At this point, two variables have been defined and stored in the PHP symbol tree. $a with contents hello and $hello with contents world. Therefore, this statement echo $a, then we have dollar, and here we are using the curly braces to distinguish, like we have another variable there, $a basically produces the exact same output as echo $a hello. They both produce hello world. So this is basically the variables. So guys, at the end, thanks for watching, and please do subscribe, like, share and comments on this channel. You can also follow us on our Facebook page, and I will see you in the next videos.